Yo, 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 what's going on, guys? This is Fragoute, and welcome to my new podcast, FragTalks. It's mostly going to be about esports, Call of Duty esports, and the new CDL league. My first guest of the podcast is Aharon9. Welcome, Aharon.
Thank you, Fragoute. Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining. I know it was a little last minute, but I appreciate you coming on. Anyway, to start, we're going to kind of get intros. First of all, if you are new to the podcast and don't know who I am Spencer Clark, aka Fragoute. I've been in the Call of Duty space and esports as a fan and as like a local community leader for 6 years now. And yeah, I've always wanted to do a podcast, and I thought this was the best time with so much roster mania and Call of Duty basically news going on. I was like, there's so much to talk about, and I was like, Aharon would be one of the best people to start this off with. You've been in the scene for quite a while, so why don't you tell me about a little bit, or tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what got you into this scene.
Okay. Well, if you don't know who I am, I go by Aharon9 on Twitch and most gaming platforms or games that I play in. That's usually my my tag is Aharon9. Also known to a lot of people as Cousin Aharon, mainly because I am the cousin of Hutchinson, if people don't know who that is. Pretty big streamer. Also part of Old Men of Umu, which features Hex from the formerly known Optic Gaming and now NRG, and then Diesel, who also was part of Optic and now is moving towards his own stuff. But I've been in the scene, I don't know, I want to say at least 5-6 years. I got into the scene based on my cousin. Growing up, you know, we hung out quite a lot, and then we kind of grew apart, and then we kind of re-established communication when I saw that he was a streamer. He was part of Machinima at the time, doing a lot of gameplay analysis and his own videos on YouTube. And then I reached out to him at some of our family functions, and you know, he was doing a lot of the gaming stuff. And then I heard about streaming, which he was doing at the time, and I started to learn more about that. And so I got into Twitch myself and do a little streaming, and kind of where we're at today is still doing that and still talking with him and other people. And I got to meet Fragoute at a Call of Duty event in Vegas, and we had talked a little bit before that, but got to meet him in person. And then from there, we've all hit it off. We've been playing games since then, and you know, kind of grown a big community. I joined Undivided that Fragoute has put together, and it's been a good time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you joining Undivided and the USS friendship with all the boys and Tora. It's been great to meet you guys all through. That was actually my first ever Call of Duty event that I was able to attend, Vegas. So I knew a lot of people through online, but to meet everybody face to face and to finally be able to make it down to one, because if people don't know, I live in Canada. Sometimes it can be very expensive to fly into America and other places. So it was super exciting to be down there, meet everybody, have such an amazing community of people who were so welcoming. And yeah, I've enjoyed our friendships ever since. It's been really fun. So you said that you saw Hutch was on Machinima. So were you already starting to kind of watch that stuff before you saw Hutch was doing it?
Yeah, I kind of, when the whole gaming thing started to become big, and what I mean by that is it started to kind of branch out to streamers and people putting YouTube videos up and stuff. I started to pay attention to a lot of that stuff. I wasn't super huge into it at the time, but it was kind of my starting process where I started to watch that stuff. And then I just happened to talk to my cousin one time at a family function, and you know, he talked about YouTube, and that's when I got onto YouTube and was looking at videos there, and then saw how big Machinima was and all the videos he did with Sark and Scene Enters, and started to watch all those. And that's kind of how everything just took off from there. Just, you know, seeing that people can come together and put out good quality content, and people sit there and you have fans, you have people watching you, and it was almost like, yeah, you're a movie star status, but through the gaming community. It was kind of nice to see.
Yeah, it's really cool. I started watching Call of Duty at the midway through Black Ops 2, I started watching. I found Nade Shot's channel somehow on YouTube, and like just fell in love with watching all the guys in the optic house, and it was crazy for me to see that, and it like blew my mind because this whole time I just played video games and it was all about local friends or the odd friends you found online that you played with. But like I knew about the Halo scene, but I never really got into it until that Black Ops 2 area where the whole optic house was making content, and it changed my life forever in this passion that I've built for esports. So it's really cool to hear how everybody got into the scene and like why they're a part of it, and it's exciting to see where it's going, especially with the Call of Duty League turning to franchising this year. So for that, is like what are you most excited to see about that?
I'm excited to see how much it's going to branch out and grow. I mean, that's always been the concern that I hear from a lot of people, that when we talk about it is, can it get any bigger than it has been? I mean, I think this year, prior to the franchising, was the biggest I've seen it. And I felt like it's continued to grow every year. Adam Epicelli did a good job with growing the community. And I think he kind of set the pace, or set the platform, and pave the way for franchising to kind of take over and see where it can go. Now, there's still that question out there whether or not it's going to be huge, but I really think I'm excited to see how much it's going to grow being city-based, and see what people think of it.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm nervous for the fact that it's so many new brands. It's like people who weren't in the scene beforehand taking over these teams. A lot of money on the line for all these big companies that put $25 million to secure a franchise spot, and then to like one of the biggest things I've noticed is like the roster announcements so far for certain teams just haven't, like, I was expecting these crazy videos to come out for each one, and some of them have been like almost lackluster. But like the big ones, I guess we'll have to wait for, is like the I guess Optic LA or Immortals, the Chicago COD team with Hex and NRG. Those are the ones who haven't said anything yet, and I'm sure we'll see big announcements from them. With that being said, who are you cheering right for Chicago this year, or are you kind of like in the middle of you don't know who you're gonna cheer for?
No, I mean, Chicago is going to be probably the main team I'm gonna root for, and a lot of that is stemmed from my cousin, and then of course Hex. Getting to know him really well, and Diesel. I mean, I think that's the group that I'm going to be pretty focused on. I think a lot of the players that have come from Optic, I'll be cheering for and looking forward to seeing. But we'll have to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how the rosters turn out. I'm guessing Scump's going to be on Chicago, but like nothing's been announced yet. For any of the old Optic team, really, we don't really know where any of them are going to end up. What team would you like to see under that Chicago name?
I don't know necessarily a team, but more so players. I mean, if the rumors are true, and it's Scump, Formal,
Gunless,
and I think JCap was mentioned with them.
I'm actually gonna pull it up here.
I mean, I know that main core, Gunless, Formal, Scump. I think that's going to be just a great team. Oh, I think the other one was it Envoy? No. I forget. It was someone from that group.
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. But I mean, I think it's hard to say you want to see a team under. I know New York has announced most of the players came from FaZe. At least 3 of them came from FaZe and 2 from Splice. So I think
I was just saying more like what players would you like to see? Like if it is going to be Scump, what players would you like to see alongside him? Or where do you think that roster? What do you think that roster is going to look like if it were up to you?
Oh, if it's up to me, I mean, I definitely Scump, Formal, and Gunless. I think is a great combo. You have Formal, who can play pretty much any role you need him to. He's more of the flex player, but he can also play the long range sniper if you need him to. He can also run an AR. You have Scump, he's going to run an SMG. That's going to be a given. Gunless can run an SMG. He can also be a flex. He can also run an AR. Oh, the other person was Arcides.
Oh
Arcides, I
yeah,
think.
that's who it was.
Yeah,
You're right. You're
I
right.
think he's a great pickup. He's underrated being part of the teams he's been part of. Like E United, people said, "Oh, he's good," but they didn't feel like he was the star on the team because you have Clayster and you have other people that are more well known. But Arcides he's a solid player and he can play an AR really well. So I think he's a great fit with those group of four. And then whoever their fifth is, if I had to pick someone, I would probably go with more of another strong sub.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know who, but someone that has the sub capability because I think that's what they need, and that team would be very well rounded.
I think like a BZ or Simp, somebody like that.
Oh yeah,
That would be an insane roster. Um, I think this year like really plays towards what like Scump again. I think he's had a rough few years with the different games, and I'm hoping that we can see. I hope he enjoys the game. I think that's the biggest thing with Scump or Seth is that he just hasn't enjoyed the games the last few years, so he hasn't put the time into the pubs and stuff like that. But that could also be with his age, just not as interested in spending 12 hours a day just grinding pubs when you're not already grinding the all your regular scrims and stuff like that. So hopefully everybody enjoys the game and we can see some really good teams come out of this. From what I've heard, that it's that Optic team, Chicago, and another one. There's like 3 teams that are looking insane right now from like what people are reporting. So I'm interested to see how those rosters come out.
yeah.
Speaking of which, since I guess not FaZe, but the New York City team, they have released their full roster now with Zero, Attach, Zuma, who's the other one? Jerd, and who was their other guy?
Was it accuracy?
Um,
Wasn't it accuracy, temp, Zuma, attach, and zero, right?
yeah, that sounds right.
I think. I want to say I think that is. Oh, and while you're looking it up, just to make sure, I know. I mean, I can talk a little bit about that New York team. So, for example, Zuma and Attach have been playing together on FaZe forever. They both got because FaZe didn't make the initial league. You know, they were lent out or loaned out to other teams.
Yeah,
Zuma, obviously, everybody knew that he helped Optic or joined Optic. You know, he wasn't. I don't think he was a good fit for them just because of his play style, but he did what he could. I mean, it's hard to jump in a situation and play with other players on short notice and try to make everybody mesh. That's the hard part.
yeah, definitely. He did a good job for the time they had with zero practice with the player and without Dashy, who was like their main slayer. They did all right, but yeah, that was definitely a big role change for that whole team for a bit. Yeah, Zuma,
Yeah,
Attach, Temp, Accuracy, and Zero. I think that team's going to be interesting. I'm unsure about the Zero pickup. I know he's a good player. I'm trying to see like how this team works out, and Accuracy is going to be their main AR probably next to Temp. Gosh.
yeah. I think role wise, you're gonna have. I mean, that's the weird part is I think this team with Zuma and Attach, they play together. They know the roles. Zero joined and played a little bit with Zuma
Yeah.
when FaZe got back into the league.
Yeah.
Now accuracy and temp's your sub automatically. You're gonna have him as a sub. And I think Attached may join him. Accuracy, I just don't feel like I think that's where things kind of a little weird for me is he's not a consistent player to me. I think he can have his moments where like, man, this kid went off. But then there's times you're like, he was lackluster. And I think this could be the type of league this year, at least it's going that route, that you got to have a lot of consistency in order to be successful. We saw it with 100 Thieves. I mean, even though this is not the league, it's not the franchising part, but when you have a team that's consistent, you're going to finish in the top 5 every tournament.
Yeah. Well, even with United last year being such a dominant like team, they didn't win every tournament, but they were in that top 3 every time. I think they were the only team with both Optic and 100 Thieves dropping like a couple tournaments where they didn't place even like in the top 4. United just last year was like crazy, which is what I'm excited that because I'm pretty sure from the rumors and stuff, Arcides and Pristini are splitting up this year, which is crazy because both those players are insane. So I'm kind of interested to see what teams they go on and how they'll do without their brother duo.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's probably pretty hard. I mean, you see it with the the brothers from London,
Oh yeah, Scraps and
Scraps and
Weston.
Weskin. Yeah, I mean they're joining teams together. Where they went, I forget what team. We'll get into that. But they joined and being brothers, it's probably you saw how they reacted. And those people that don't know what I'm talking about, when I went to champs this year, they were on different teams, but they were both rooting for each other to the point that at one point Weskins was still in the tournament. Scraps got eliminated with his team, and Scraps took it hard. He had a hard time, and Weskins came over to him and was just consoling him. And then Scraps was out every day, the rest of the tournament, every game. He was watching his brother and cheering him on, wearing his stuff, his uniform and everything. So I think that's kind of got to be hard for someone like Arcides and Pristini. You're your family. You went to places together. You're always with each other. You've played together. And now, if it's true and they're splitting up, you have Arcides going to possibly Chicago with Scump, and then you have Pristini. I don't know if he's been announced somewhere else, but you have them splitting up. That could take a toll on them initially. I think they'll get used to it, but initially you're used to that. It might be hard on them.
Yeah, and they're back together now on the London team. So with our Weskins and Scraps at least, so that'll be interesting to see how that roster goes too, with both of them back in London. I'm sure they like that because it was. I think they've almost got their full roster too. They have Dylan, Scraps, Weskin, and Jerd. I'm pretty sure that they've said right now. Which is going to be an interesting. I was expecting a little bit more switch up from like those London and Paris teams to see how many people from like the NA teams were to go over there, because like nothing's been even really said about Paris right now. We don't know what that roster is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see. Actually, I think there was a funny rumor where it was like Censor will be in Paris.
Right.
So I'm interested to see how that goes. I guess off of the topic of rosters and like what for the franchises and actual cities, was there a place you were surprised didn't get like a franchise spot? Like there's two in LA, which I thought was kind of silly, but was there somewhere else where you were like, man, it would be cool to have a team there?
Well, and if correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think San Francisco got a spot, did they?
No, just two in LA.
Yeah, and that surprised me because I know people say, well, California has enough, but usually in any sport that I've ever seen, you always have an LA and a San Francisco. So
Yeah.
not seeing San Francisco there is pretty big to me. Boston, I don't think Boston had anything, and that's
No.
another huge place that you see them in every sport. So I'm and who knows? We keep hearing that the 12 are just to start, these 12 cities, and that they're looking to expand, as
Yeah,
things move on.
it'll probably be like the Overwatch thing where end of season 1 they'll let in like 4 more teams or something like that.
Right.
And they'll do that until they feel like they've gotten enough teams in the franchise league. But it's like I was surprised because the team that owns Luminosity, who is run out of Canada in Vancouver on our west coast,
Hmm.
they own the Vancouver Titans for Overwatch. But then they bought a CWL spot and then put it in Seattle. So I was like kind of upset because I was like, we only have the one COD team in frickin' Toronto. Why wouldn't you have the West Coast team in Vancouver too? Come on, guys. What the hell? Canada. Canada
Yeah, and I
needs
think
more.
yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's if they want to become as big as these other esports leagues and stuff, I think they need to expand outside of the United States. You got to hit places like, Australia and Canada and China and Japan. I mean, you got to hit these spots in order to grow. And I think that's why I'm excited for franchising, but at the same time, there's a lot of doubt out there because Call of Duty is a small esports league. It's really not as big as some of these other these other avenues. And
Yeah.
I think
Well, with
if you want to get bigger,
with like Overwatch, it's like it's very big in the uh Asia and all that, whereas Call of Duty is very much North American and some of Europe, with Australia too. But it's like it's very much a North American esport, so it's going to be interesting to see as this franchising goes along where franchises will end up outside of North America. With
Yep.
Paris and London already taken, like I'm just not sure where else. I guess Spain, Italy, I guess could happen, but it's like we'll see. Like as the hopefully the growth continues with Call of Duty esports, that we see like some more places in Asia and the rest of Europe start getting into the Call of Duty scene.
I agree. But the only way they're going to do that, and that's where I think that this is where Call of Duty has not been the best at, is expanding its brand. And what I mean by that is, I think part of the whole thing with getting these players in this franchising, if these franchises are smart, and I think this is where Chicago is going to be 10 steps ahead of everybody else because of having Hex and he knows what to do, is by branding your people. And what I mean is, for example, what Optic did when Hex was there, and that is did streaming, did content, kept people out in the public eye. They had sponsors, everybody pushing these people in the area, and people got to know them, and that's why they grew so big. And like Hex said, you gotta brand yourself so people you build a character. It's just like a movie. You got to build that character so people want to come see it. They want to go to the movies to see a character because, or a star or an actor because of how they've presented themselves in other movies.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
in Call of Duty, same thing. For example, Scump. He's well known in all of Call of Duty, and that's because he streams and he does content. And Hex has had him on his vlogs. And I think that's where Chicago is 10 steps ahead of everybody else. And I hope every city does that.
Yeah.
I think the one I'm seeing already is Minnesota, with having Midnight over there from Optic.
Oh,
She's jumped in there.
her
and made-
her plus
yeah.
Gary V, and they're all about content. I think that team is going to be an amazing content team, as long as the player, like, I think they got pretty good players right now. They got Silly, GodRx, and shit. I always forget the last guy.
I can picture him. I just can't think of his name.
yeah, same. It was Looney. Was it Looney? Accuracy. Oh god.
No, accuracy's none. Yeah, while you're looking, I mean, that's the thing. I think their announcements that they did is exactly what cities should be doing. And Midnight did a great job, and I'm sure she had a big influence on this, is having how the announcement went. It was basically a video showing their city. Assault, yeah. Showing their city, and then showing these people walking. You don't know who it is, and then they sit down, and as they sit down, they're in that. You get to see who they are, and it was a great build-up. And then they look to the two chairs that are empty and like, hey, we got more to come, type of thing. I think that type of thing needs to happen, and I think that's what every city needs to do, something similar.
I agree. I really hope that that every city. I'm really excited to see the rest of these roster announcements. I want to see some amazing announcement videos, because New York, like, you had your whole you're the first org to at least publicly say that you have your whole team planned out, and you just make them each do like their individual video. I just thought that was very lackluster, especially for like a huge city like New York, who's could have such a big fan base. Like, you think you'd want to pop off with your roster announcement video.
Yeah, I mean, you could even have. I mean, my thought, and this is just, you want to promote your city, you want to promote the symbol of your city and show this group. I'd go straight for the statue. And I can't think of the statue right now, but.
Statue of Liberty?
Statue of Liberty, yeah. So I mean, I think that would be huge, having them basically you pan up to the Statue of Liberty, you come back down, and standing in front of it, you have your starting lineup, and you introduce them. And I mean, that would have been on, and I don't know how to do it.
Or like a drone shot from the top of the Empire State Building with your team up there, like something insane to be like, let's go. I felt like there was not enough of that. And I mean, there's still lots to come. I'm sure that a lot of these parent companies are going to be learning as they go. Like, especially once they see like the stuff that I'm sure Chicago has planned, it's going to be like, oh shit, we got to step our game up. there's a lot of like fans that are already being like, well, we'll be here.
Yeah, and you're right. Yeah.
What do you think about Mud Dog going to Optic, moving from 100 Thieves?
I mean, if you think about it, it was a smart move by whatever they're going to be called LA Optic or Immortals to bring on something that has a proven someone has a proven record of how he manages. He took that COD team and worked with them closely, and look what the 100 Thieves did. I mean, they were very successful.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that's a great move on Optic's part. And 100 Thieves, they're not in that COD space right now. So the thing I respect about Nate Shot in this situation is he didn't try to probably keep him there. He said, you know what, do what you need to do, grow yourself, and you know, you started here, you got bigger because of what happened. Take the opportunity, and I think that's he took the right opportunity. I know people are giving a lot of crap for it. I think that's wrong. I think the Optic Nation, what do you want to call it, the Green Wall, all the Optic fans that are giving them a lot of hate, they just need to learn. At this point, Optic is no longer there as far as the Optic that we know it. If you're bitter about that part, you need to find your team. You need to move on and let whatever happens happen. It's out of your control now.
Yeah, and I just think that's unfair. It's like, like there's players and stuff that are gonna be a part of that team, and it's unfortunate how everything went, but you just can't look at that now, and it's just like there's gonna be a team under there. They needed management. They're gonna need people. You can't be like, oh, this team's not gonna be as good as Scump and stuff like that. It's like, well, it's not that Optic anymore. You just can't even, like, you can't just shit on everything. You don't have to support them, but if you're not gonna support them, then who cares what they're doing? You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's the one thing with the Green Wall is, like, a lot of people, and it's not most of them. There's just that small group of people who instantly put on hate to everything that isn't how they should, or how they think it should be. And it's not fair to the people who, like, that's their job and they're just trying to do the best they can with what they've been given. So we'll really see how that goes. With that, the rumor of that team is TJ, Dashy, Slasher, Kenny, and JCap, which, I mean, that'll be an interesting team with Slasher, and it's basically half of 100 Thieves and half the old Optic.
Yeah, and I'm kind of I'm not sure that this team is going to mesh well together. And I can tell you, my thought is Slasher has been very vocal about the old Optic. So last year when Optic was involved and the players were supposed to arrive for scrims or supposed to arrive for lands and were supposed to arrive for all this other stuff, the two main people that were late every time was Dashy and TJ. And Slasher has he's very controlling of his teams. He's very vocal about his teams, and that's one thing he said it on Maven's show before, saying, "Hey, I don't like them. I don't like playing them. I don't care that they're at any of our LAN events and stuff because they don't show up on time, and I hate when people don't show up on time." I mean, that's his big stickler for things.
Yeah,
he's a
true.
very structured player,
It's
and
true.
and no matter how much talent you have, he doesn't put up with that. So I think that's maybe he's thought, if these rumors are true, that he's going to help Dashy and TJ since they're young to mold and work well and have a good work ethic. But that's going to be hard.
And that again is just a rumor, and who knows? Like, maybe that's not even the team. Maybe that was what they were hoping for, and Slasher was like, "No, I'm not not teaming with them." But
true.
Like, even like for that team, I'm looking at it. I'm like, who's your main AR? I guess Slasher right now, but that could be also Octane. Like, there could be other people that are filling that AR role, not Slasher. So
yeah, and we don't know the meta. We don't know if it's going to be if it's like the other game. If you need 2 ARs, if you just need 1, and we don't know. So that's the hard part with these teams building it. I mean, they got to play a little bit of the beta, but I mean, me and you played the beta. If I had to guess, I mean, I saw people with the MP5 that were just going off. I saw people with the AUG or the M4 going off. So I mean, it's both guns.
And that's true. And a lot of the thing is too is we still don't, like, we didn't get to use all the attachments or all the guns. So so guns still may change or be different than what we are, even what the pros are thinking they're going to be using. I remember when the Odin got unlocked, all the pros were saying this gun's great because you could 3-bullet with it if you could hit all your shots. So it'll be interesting once the game comes out to see how that all comes apart, especially with all these rosters being made before they know how the game is played. I'm interested, like, is there going to be a roster lock, you think, right like right as the game comes out, or are all these rosters that are going to be set in stone beforehand because of all these contracts that they've started signing, and they'll have to just try and figure out what they have and get substitutes in and shit. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to be. I really think that this year with the franchising coming up, it's going to be like a team. You're going to have a contract, so there probably will be trade opportunities, but then you have to trade away the contract, and both teams have to agree, and you have to. I mean, everybody's going to be under contract, so it's going to be different, and I really think that's going to play a big part on the rosters because I think, for example, Minnesota made it very clear they were picking a roster not just for this Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I remember Midnight's video saying we're looking for a team that can not only mesh well together, but like you said, can do content, is likable, can get along, can move forward in different games and still be successful no matter what game they play. And I think that's a smart way to go. Yes, you want talent. I think the core of if you have a core five, since five this year, what they're saying is five is going to be the starting lineup.
Yeah.
Your core three need to be the guys that can do everything, versatile, get along with everybody, and then you might have your two or even one that is your superstar that, hey, this is going to be the guy that puts us over the top type of thing.
I agree. I think we're going to see a lot of players left over until the game comes out. I think everybody's getting their main five, like kind of superstar, like their top financed players, where they're just like they had to try and sign these players beforehand, or they would have probably never got them. And then after the game comes out and that meta starts, then you'll start to see teams picking up the substitutes before whenever the roster lock is, because I can't see all these pros from the top 16 teams that were in the pro league last year being picked up just off these weeks without playing the game. So that's what I think is going to happen, is there's going to be a lot of players that are just going to be left in the dust until after the game comes, and then they'll be working their hardest to try and get in those substitute roles on different teams.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up a good point too. That whole idea of the substitute and potentially where, let's say you play a five match series of different game modes, that you might have stars that are S&D stars, you might have your respawn stars, and I mean, it's or maybe you have stars that certain players are good on certain maps. If you're able to substitute during the game, that's going to be a whole new thing.
Oh yeah, it's going to be insane. It'll be interesting to see with like you have two S&D stars just sitting on the bench waiting for the game to start, and then the hard point gets played or whatever the game modes are in this new season coming up, and then S&D comes out and they switch players. It's going to be interesting to see, because that's like the last, or through all of Call of Duty, that's not been a thing, and you've just tried to mesh with your regular 4 to 5 players, and now you're going to have up to possibly, 10 players that you can have, or 7 players on a team, and you're like, okay, well, you're going to have a bunch of people where it's like, hopefully they continue to mesh well when they're swapping out people mid games or mid matches, even though that one person's fired up after the first map. It's going to be interesting. I'm really excited to see how it works, and I hope it goes well, especially with home games and away games coming in January, they said. That's going to be interesting. All the teams going to be playing home games. There are going to be so many flights. Jeez.
Well, and that's what and we just don't know that. And I know they haven't announced everything, so we don't know the ins and outs and how it's going to all work out. And that's going to be new to Call of Duty. We're used to them having tournament events in cities. And it sounds like from the league, and I don't know if it's going to follow exactly what Overwatch is doing, but you basically, I don't know how many games they play. I mean, you might know more about Overwatch than I do. I don't know if they play 30 games throughout the season, and then the top 10 are in the playoffs and they move on, or I mean top 5 in the playoffs. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know. I know a very small amount about the Overwatch League. I just try to kind of keep informed, but yeah, they have so many just regular standard season games, and then they I don't even know, I think it's top 8 teams or something like that move on to playoffs. But it'll be interesting to see how that works for the Call of Duty League, and how they continue to grow it over the next few years. What speaking of the new game though, what was your opinion from playing on the beta? How did you enjoy the game?
I'd say this: the movement on the game is completely different than what we see in Call of Duties. I know people were like, "Well, it's just another Call of Duty." It wasn't. The movement I felt like was a lot more crisp and clean, and there wasn't all this. I mean, people, yes, they jumped around corners, but there wasn't the jump shooting and shots and that you normally see. There's a lot. They brought back the drop shot,
Yeah,
um, and I think that's a good thing. It was part of Call. It's been part of Call of Duty for a long period of time.
I love the
But
drop shot. That's my
oh
go-to.
yeah, me too. But the guns, I think the biggest part of this is the guns. First of all, sound realistic. They move realistic. They load realistic. I felt like everything. It sounded great. It was just. I think it's. There's still a lot of polishing to do because I know there's going to be a lot of changes and things. They try to polish it up as they get closer to launch. But I really feel like it's more of the type of game that's going to bring competition back, and it's going to be fun for not only casual fans but also the pros. And you saw it. You saw a lot of pros loving the game. They did have some complaints, and that's good. That's because that's their passion. They know what they like and they don't like.
Yeah, and I think that's all of us as Call of Duty fans. I think everybody that I've talked to is pretty excited for this game. There's always those little things that you're like, well, this could improve, or this wasn't the greatest map. But I mean, hopefully when the full game comes out, the biggest thing I don't want to see is guns, pay to win guns in loot boxes. That's the only thing that they could do to really screw this game up from what I played in the beta.
Agreed. I think the pay to win is always an issue with, and has always been an issue with the Call of Duties that in the past.
Yeah, the recent ones, yeah.
The recent ones, yeah. And I think they need to focus. I mean, and I know the developers already said we're going to make the game we want to make. We're not going to just listen to pros. We're going to make it fun for everybody. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
But you also got to look at, as a casual player and not a pro, and if I'm playing online, I want to be able to have the same opportunity as someone else would have having to pay extra money to try to get a gun that everybody's dominating with.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where they need to focus. If you want to do this, let's have a good time, everybody to enjoy it, then make it so everybody can enjoy it. Don't make it so only certain people can enjoy it because they have the better guns.
Yeah, because not everybody has the same funding to be able to buy 50 loot crates to hopefully get that 1% chance weapon that you have in there. And it's like I'm excited if it's going to be visual, like customization things only. Like I saw, like if you got to level 10 in the beta, you unlocked that special shotgun, which it's not a special shotgun. It's just different skins for the silencer on that shotgun, different skins for the handle of that shotgun, a literal like actual like skin on the gun. Like a weapon camo and stuff like that. So I was excited to see that because it was like it's kind of like a variant, but it's all parts where it's like you can, with the gunsmith that they put in this game, you can literally build that shotgun where it was like a double barrel silencer on the end, and it has like its regular view, and then you get this variant view which doesn't change any of the stats. It's just a different looking silencer, which I thought was a really cool way to do it. And I was like, man, like with that type of customization, there's so many different things you can do with your gun to make it look sick. And so I hope they stick with that, and there's no like, oh, get this ICR from this game we've now just put in this game.
Exactly. And I think they did a great job with the beta for people to really enjoy bits and pieces of the game. And I think people, that's the big thing, is I get upset at our community of Call of Duty people when a beta comes out. They expect so much out of the beta, and instead of looking at the big picture, that the beta's there for them to figure out kinks and try to make things better for their launch, so there's no issues when there's a launch. They test the servers, they test how many people they can fit into a game. I mean, they test everything.
Man, the crossplay was seamless. That is something I got to give them huge props for. They had a couple of issues with, I think, like people couldn't hear other like crossplay people, but like other than that, like you got into a lobby and you barely noticed a difference between playing with just PC players or just PS4 to playing PS4, Xbox, and PC all in the same lobby. So huge props for them for that.
Yeah, the only thing that they could have made less of an issue was the whole issue with the lobbies and joining a group of people and having to reform the lobby every time.
Yeah, that was super annoying.
Yeah, that became annoying. But like you said, the crossplay was spectacular. And the thing is, I couldn't tell half the time if you were a PC player, an Xbox player, or a PS4 player, the only time that it kind of showed is when a PC player turns. I mean, the quickness of their turnaround.
Yeah,
Then sometimes you're like, oh, okay,
yeah.
that's definitely got to be a PC player because with my controller, I could not turn around that quick.
No, you just know there's that one kid. He's hacking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it was definitely a really fun game. What was your favorite gun of the beta?
The AUG. And the reason I say the AUG is I'm more of a player that likes the versatility. I want to be able to, shoot long range, but also be able to at least compete, have a chance close range.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the AUG because I felt like it's very versatile. I was hitting people long shots. I was up close. I was beating people. The only people that would beat me sometimes would be the MP5, and which you should expect. And that's the way the gun balancing should be. An SMG up close should outshoot any other gun that's not an SMG. And that's I think where the other Call of Duty started to fail because they started to try to appease everybody and move the weapons in different directions, and then you can use an AR that it didn't matter if you're up close or not, you would destroy somebody. And I think that's where they got to do. They got to make sure this game stays clear of that.
Yeah, no, I really hope they don't do too much like balancing. I want there to be weapons that are better in this situation than that, or but weapons that are just better off overall because that's how they were created.
Right. What about you?
I am between the MP5 and the MP7. The MP5, similar to the AUG, I felt like it was just better for like that mid to like farther range plus up close, where the MP7 was only good up close. And the MP7 to me was just fun because of how fast paced you could play in a game that was rather slow compared to the previous Call of Duties. It just made you feel like you could run around fast and still ADS quickly, jump around corners as fast as you could in like older Call of Duties. It just felt like it just was that run and gun play style in a game that was slower that made it more enjoyable. It was so fun to use. From the times we played and the couple clips I got just from using the MP7, it was a fun gun to use. So I've always been a sub player at heart, so it was both of those guns are really fun. I'm really excited to see how the game is and if I continue to keep up the pace with those subs, because a lot of people were worried. They were like, oh, this game's gonna be so AR oriented because everybody's hiding in windows, and it's like, no man, you just gotta play it the way you'd play with that gun. You can't just, if you're sitting mid-map with a MP7, no, you're not gonna win that fight against that AR hiding in the window.
Exactly. And I think that's the other thing too. Some of the complaints that people were having was that the maps have 15 different lanes and you can get shot from every direction. Well, here's the thing. It's real life. It's acting more consistent with what's real. You're not going to have 3 lanes on a map where you can only run down 3 lanes, and then it's AR heavy. AR is just sit in a window and you have to run down the street to get to them. You're dead.
Yeah. Oh,
even
yeah.
with a sub. With this one, you can now, it's spread out. You can go in and out of buildings. And if you have a sub, you're going to have that advantage of busting through a door and shoot someone that has an AR.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. And people are like complaining and stuff like that. But it was like, if you were really that upset about it, literally there was a smoke grenade that you could drop on the ground and run to get closer. You know what I mean? And people just have to be willing to use that tactical. You can't just have a class that's full run and gun and then run down the middle of the street thinking there's going to be no ARs in the windows as I'm running down the street. Like,
right.
It's just funny. It is a lot different than the last few Call of Duties with no real 3-lane maps or in this game. It's like you're not going to be able to run straight down the street to get to the next hard point or whatever. You have to be cautious about the corners, be cautious about each building, because I don't like, yeah, the last Call of Duty you could really go in every building was probably Modern Warfare 2. Nothing's been like that since. It has been very like structured maps. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays. I'm super excited for S&D. S&D has been always my favorite game mode, and I think it's going to play really well.
I think on this game, well, we saw it with that, what was it called? It wasn't S&D, but it was similar.
Cyber Attack.
Cyber Attack. I mean, you got to see glimpses of what S&D could be like, and it's very and they said this. The game developer said this. It's going to be more of a tactical game. You can't just go busting into rooms and expect to blow everybody away. That's what Black Ops 4 was. You can slide in and shoot everybody.
Yeah.
This one, you have to play tactically. You have to slightly open the door. You need to throw a flashbang in, and then you go in, and you're gonna have to go in with 2 people so you can cover each corner because there's people in every corner. I mean, I think that's the thing is it's a more tactical game, which makes it more exciting because the threat's really there. You're not able just to your character's not able to slide in and destroy everybody. Now you do have your pros, and you have those certain players that can do that, but it's going to be far and few between. Like in Black Ops 4, anybody can do it.
Oh, I agree. I think this game's gonna really show like different players a different way of playing, kind of like World War II did. It's gonna benefit certain players a lot more. Like I'm surprised I haven't heard anything about Chino getting on a team yet because of how good he was with Temp in World War II. This game's not exactly the same, but still that slower paced game where those ARs on head glitches, man, they're gonna be deadly.
Yeah, agree.
But anyway, we're coming to the end of the podcast. I'm gonna ask you one more question to end it off. If you got signed to let's say Chicago COD, and they're like, pick 4 players to play with, who are you picking?
Dashy, Scump, Formal, and I would probably say, man, that last one's a hard one. Probably someone like Simp.
Okay. What role are you playing? Kind of that secondary sub?
Yeah, I'd probably more the secondary sub or more like the flex player, because I think I could do pretty well with flex, where I'm kind of the in between, because I think that's where I think the AUG would fit that type of role, and I think I'd be more a flex player where I can play both mid range and up close.
I agree. I'm probably picking Octane, Scump, probably Simp, and probably yeah, the last player's always rough.
Well, because you have your 2 subs, you have you and Scump.
Yeah.
So,
and Simp's kind of that flex player. Got Octane as your AR. I don't know. It's got to be like a Dashy, TJ, or a BZ. One of those 3, just to fill that like kind of extra role. They can kind of do a little bit of everything.
mm-hmm.
I'm probably gonna go with Dashy too. Yeah, that player. You can't go wrong with Dashy. At least not how he's played the last couple of years.
Agreed.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Guys, if you enjoyed, like the video, like the I don't know. No, like give 5-star rating. This is my first podcast. I don't really know, but
if you like, subscribe to it so they
yeah,
can watch
you can
more.
Like, subscribe, share this podcast. Tell me who is on your team, what team you're cheering for in this franchising, and yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys. Peace.